please welcome to the stage Judy Tu, SVP and Senior Relationship Manager of City National Bank's Entertainment Division.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much. We're so proud to be here and so good to see everyone's faces today. I really want to thank the organizers for putting together, bringing leaders from various parts of the entertainment industry and all of you who are shaping the future of filmmaking and independent filmmaking in particular. Today, we're going to be hearing some of the most innovative and influential voices in independent filmmaking and the state of the business today and what the future holds for all of us. City National Bank has supported the entertainment industry for over 70 years. All of our clients, we take very seriously to be your trusted advisors. We thank you for your business, and we are here to support you and help you achieve all of your business and personal financial goals. Our support of the entertainment industry goes wide and deep, and our thought process goes to film and TV, production companies, music, entertainment, in both on the individual side as well as on the music publishing side, on the sports side, e-gaming, Broadway. It is broad, it is deep, and I've been a very proud colleague of City National Bank for many decades. We are proud to support events like TheGrill, which continue to bring together leaders within the entertainment industry as a whole. And it's a very broad industry today. And we're proud to be able to hear the thought process from your speakers. Thank you so much for your time, and enjoy the panel.
So I've been really looking forward to this conversation because, first of all, I really admire everybody here who's on this panel, and secondly, because I just have such a warm spot in my heart for independent film and what it represents to the industry, and people who follow my work know that I've written about it constantly and am worried about the future of independent film. So let me just start with Nina, who probably has the most perspective over time, right, over the beginning of the independent film industry and where it is today, sort of where it flourished, where it, really hit a high, how it kind of carved out an entire channel in the entertainment business where it didn't exist before. I guess starting from the 90s, something like that is when it really kind of took off, and where we are today. So where are we?
Well, first of all, I have to keep that one, perspective over time. I think that's a euphemism for
I'll take it from you too, okay. It's true.
But I take it with pride. I think we all know that the independent film market is challenging, and it has been challenging for a number of reasons, all of which you've probably read countless articles about. COVID, which made theater going difficult for the audience. The fact that the streaming services, don't necessarily, I think, have independent film in their as a priority, and all of those things together have really strained the marketplace. Raising money, which was always difficult, is even more difficult now because a lot of the revenue streams that you could point to just are not there anymore. But Sharon, I have to tell you, the thing that I feel good about is that I don't feel that the independent film community is standing back and saying, woe is me. How are we going to succeed? They're really looking at the issues. They're trying to figure out who are our audiences. How do we get our films in front of those audiences? How do we take advantage of technology and the growing awareness of an audience that, as one of our previous panels talked about, really doesn't know anything other than a world of screens that they hold in their hands? And how do we cultivate? So I am both concerned as someone who loves independent film, as all of us do, but I'm also very enthusiastic about the way our community, I think, is approaching it.
Well, I want to talk more in depth about what you mean by that. I'd love to also hear, Sev, your perspective, because you really started in the world of independent film. And of course, now you're, I guess we're going to call you a big honcho, because you and Ryan Coogler have Proxima Films and had one of the big studio hits of the year in Sinners. People already they talked about it on the last panel.
Oh, no.
So good for you. But that isn't really where you started. And I would love to hear your perspective over time, Nina, okay, of like where you came from and where it is today. And because I know you still have a warm spot for the creativity that comes out of the independent film world.
No, yeah, absolutely. You know, the first film that I worked on right out of film school was with Ryan Coogler. We made a film called Fruitvale Station. It was a little independent film.
A little film called, we have heard of Fruitvale Station.
Oh, man. And, you know, we shot that film in the summer of 2012. We were lucky to premiere it at Sundance in 2013. And, man, I think that was a nice time for independent film. I think there's obviously cycles to the industry at large, but that was near the advent of the streaming services really having a boom. So there was a lot of buyers, a lot of content places wanted to acquire films that were done so they could put them on their new platforms, and we benefited from that. There was a couple years where I was a producer or junior producer or whatever on a number of movies that were going to festivals and selling, and because there was such a desire for them, the investors were, of course, there to invest and make the money. I do feel that that time has kind of changed now, like Nina was mentioning. I think the last independent film I made was a little movie called Searching that we made that for $800,000, really, really tiny. It was a movie about a guy looking for his missing daughter, shot it on a computer screen, really trying to find a way to make it as small as we could, but in a way that could still feel like it had an emotional and cinematic appeal.
It was like John Chu and who was the lead?
Yeah, John Cho and Deborah Messing. Yeah, we
Right, Deborah Messing, yeah.
And we were really fortunate. We had a nice little bidding war situation. Again, it was kind of during that time where everyone was looking to acquire, and Sony picked it up, and theatrically ended up making $75 million, which is nuts. But in the time since, like Nina mentioned, that marketplace has changed. You still see splashy premieres at festivals, but when you keep up with the trades, you're not seeing as many acquisitions. You're not seeing as many bidding wars or purchases. But I'm with Nina in that there's still opportunity here. You just have to be all the things that you always have to be as an independent filmmaker. You just got to be that even more so. Mm-hmm. You got to find ways to make those films even more economically, creatively, of course, and still aiming to make something elevated. I find myself leaning a little bit more towards genre. More towards the things that can easily be high concept, that might travel better internationally. It's not to say you should not make that passionate dream project of yours, but find a way to make it in a way that maybe feels more appealing to a mass audience. Like, as an example with Sinners, it's a deeply personal story that Ryan wrote that's very much an homage to his family and our partner Zinzi's family. It just happens to have a lot of dancing vampires in it. But so that was a way that we could find a way to give it a big global reach.
I mean, I actually, if you think about it, I could see Sinners as being made as an independent film. It has the spirit of an independent film, actually.
Thank you, yeah.
And I could easily see every major studio turning it down, except it was Ryan who brought it to them. So, but on paper, it's not something that a studio would be like, oh yeah, I totally get this. It's got, sure, banjos and hip hop dancers and vampires and original music, like, I'm in, that
Totally.
is the kind of thing the studios typically turn down and that end up in the independent film world. So, for sure, that ethos is there and is still kind of what's driving, I think, anything that's new. In fact, the panel that was just here, those were their final words, which is, if we don't have a Sinners, I think it was Andrew Cripps who was saying, we're not going to have a future film business because this is what's driving new franchises ultimately, or new ideas. Like, there's only so many Star Wars you can make, as Disney found out to their disadvantage. Let me turn to Jasmine, because we're excited to have you representing your company, Topic, on the panel. Because Topic has, kind of beat the odds, I would say, as an independent production company that has successfully developed and sold projects. So what do you know that other companies don't?
Yeah, I mean, I think we kind of have a philosophy. First and foremost, we're really, really filmmaker driven. And I think we just think about writer-directors deeply and thoughtfully, and we think about the filmmakers that can break through and have commercial success like Ryan Coogler. But like, if you think about I think a lot of people are nostalgic right now because it's 2025 and they're thinking about the past 25 years. If you look at the 100 best movies that the New York Times said, New York Times named the best movies of the past 25 years, so many of those are auteur-driven films. And I think Topic really we really see ourselves in the marketplace as someone who can grow and nourish and build filmmakers. And we've been really lucky to have repeat business with folks like Jesse Eisenberg, Michael Covino, who did The Climb and then Splitsville for us, with Molly Gordon, who we worked with on Theater Camp, who's doing a second film for us. We just wrapped Jesse Eisenberg's last movie that we're really proud of.
What's that called?
It's untitled.
It's untitled.
It's untitled still. Yeah.
So
it
after
stars,
A Real Pain, this is his new movie.
This is his new movie. It stars Julianne Moore and Paul Giamatti. And
Heard of them?
Yeah, and it was so flattering that after A Real Pain, Jesse came back to work with us because I think we really proved that we could be additive. We could respect his vision of what he wanted to do with his movie. We kind of say, like, we don't just pick the projects pick us. Like, we want to work on movies where we can actually help them see their highest potential. And I think with Jesse, we found just like a wonderful match. But generally speaking, I think we feel really optimistic. Like, I think we look at the movies that won all of the major film awards this year at the Academy Awards. Anora, The Brutalist, our movie A Real Pain. These are all movies, the documentaries No Other Land, these are all movies that were made through an independent system. And so we feel like we can be just a small part of that, which is exciting.
Well, okay, so just to argue with you a little bit, because it's not unusual that the Academy Awards end up with smaller art house, more niche films in the Best Picture category, and sometimes they win, and sometimes they still don't do very much business at the box office. So I think what we're talking about today is, like, how do we create a business model and create an ecosystem where the best movies can also find ways to be monetized and to find the biggest possible audience. So that is actually, as someone who covers the Academy Awards and the Oscars every year, it's really frustrating to me to see, like, a Nomadland is, like, kind of really just trying real hard, or
do their best,
and so that I think is part of the challenge that we're trying to solve. Tommy, I love that you're here. I look at you as somebody who is just indefatigable in pursuing, making movies or documentaries, whatever path it becomes possible. So talk about that, please, and also I'd love to hear your take on what is the biggest challenge facing independent film at the moment.
Easy questions.
Stacked questions for you.
I think there's so many headwinds right now in the industry, and as people who love indie films, who love the spirit of what it is, where it's not conforming to some formulaic approach and doing something really different, but different is hard right now, because like you talked about, like, there was a time where you had the streamers that actually cared about those movies, but their metrics for what works changed. And so they built up this whole sort of ecosystem where you could make a movie for $3 million. They could buy it for 10 or 15, or maybe it goes to Sony. It's not really there anymore. Where you look at the number of titles that were for sale at TIFF, 50 movies or so?
Yeah, that's right.
How many announcements have we seen?
Under 10.
I
would say.
I don't think we got anywhere. It's probably, it's sad, is what it is. And so but that's the reality. And so we can't live in a place where we're just hoping, because hope's not a plan. And so it requires being really close to the marketplace, understanding what's working, understanding what's not working, and being responsive to that. I think movies cost too much right now, and people don't want to hear that. But because of where we were, and so the golden age of indies or docs or what have you, people got comfortable spending far more than what they were worth. And you can't make a movie for the top of what it would be worth, because it's just not responsible. And so I think, without sort of right-sizing the approach, right-sizing how much we're spending, right-sizing how many days we have. And that means we've got to be crafty. We got to be creative. We got to really push to make sure that we are leaning on creativity and not money to solve problems, but then also realize that it's just a different industry. The industry that we grew up with, where there were 6 major studios and then 5, it's no longer really that industry. Amazon, Apple, Netflix, and they evaluate projects on a completely different basis. And if you're not, again, taking that into account, it's not going to work. And so for us, or for me, it's about being creative, and it's not about, again, just crying about where things were. I want to make stuff. I want to work with people who are amazing. I want to tell stories that we can be proud of. But I also want to make movies that make money, because if we don't get to keep making them. And so
Right.
there is opportunity. It's just different.
So practically speaking, how do you pivot or adapt?
I think a lot of projects are doomed at the very beginning because they are ignoring the reality. And so if you have this project and here's this actor, he's a perfect actor, perfect actress, they're absolutely brilliant, but unfortunately they have no value, but it's the right person, okay, well then we got to drop the budget. We can't really do it for that. And so maybe you manage to convince somebody to give you the money, but then you now create a situation where it's not going to work. And so practically, it means being really hard up front, understanding who your audience is, who the likely buyers are, having the conversations. Because again, the thing that works for Netflix is very different than what's going to work for Sony Classics. It's very different than what's going to work for Amazon. And so it is a fractured system, and they all still need stuff, but it's different. And so it means being really diligent up front, being scrutinizing, and not, again, I think it's being scrutinizing and having people who are going to tell you that this isn't working, this is irresponsible, and keep pushing. And then if you do all those things, it's still going to be hard. You're still going to probably have to cut your budget. You're still going to probably have to cut your days. But if you at least do that part, you mitigate some of the risk. Because again, you can do everything right now. You can get into Sundance, you can get into Toronto, you can have good reviews, and then you can still struggle. And so given that that's the reality, it is incumbent upon us to do everything we can to control everything we can to make sure that we are giving ourselves the shot at success. Because I don't know about y'all, but I don't want to make stuff that people don't see.
Yeah, I see all of you guys nodding at what he said. What's your thought?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's so well said. I think something we think about a lot as an independent studio without distribution is like, we can't make a movie for just one distributor. If we get a script or we're looking at something and we love it and it's like, oh, this could only really be a fit for A24, it's too tough for us. That's too big of a risk. But if we can really understand how the movie on the other end could be great for 3 places, 4 places, Sony Pictures and Focus and H4 and Netflix, like that's when we try to think about the best case scenario. And I think as Tommy said, like being just deeply diligent about all of the decisions from casting to crew to how do you just like, it's obvious stuff, but like making sure at every step of the way we're elevating the thing, and like how can we get that DP that maybe just did Sinners who might want to do a small indie movie like that. That's how we're always thinking about things to I think for something to just kind of be like a nice indie, that's where it doesn't get seen.
Well, there's a lot of that. I mean, there's, I go to the festivals, there's kind of dozens of those films.
Yeah.
And, for a while, the streamers were buying them. As Tommy points out, they just are not anymore. So,
Well, not only are they not buying them, but remember, they have turned, in many ways, the economic model of our business around. And one of the things that they really focus on is this notion of buying out everything. And when you go into independent film, and as a talent representative, when you know that your clients are taking huge cuts to be part of this, they also want to be part of the upside. And their model is really, there should be no upside.
right.
You know, we will pay you in a couple of years a few more dollars that you negotiated at the outset, but we're not going to make a deal where you're going to be seeing money 20 and 30 years from now, as many of our clients who were in the original kind of indie film marketplace were, you know, who could to some degree count on a steady flow of income. And that has really changed. And I know as talent reps, we talk about this all the time. We don't necessarily shy away from saying to clients, you know, if this appeals to you, do it. But we want them to have some stake in it going forward. And that's you know, you're kind of fighting that battle quite a bit in the current marketplace. But we're insistent on it.
Yeah, you said also that when people, we were talking earlier, that you tell your clients, the first thing is who is your audience for the project that they want to go out and
Well, I think
make.
it really goes to what Tommy was saying about being aware of the entirety of the world that you live in. And perhaps there was a time when you could make something so deeply personal that you weren't as concerned about how you were going to get people to see it. And that world just doesn't exist anymore. You must be deliberate in who this is going to appeal to and how you're going to get them to see it. And I mean, we've talked about this a lot, how much I loved your first film. I mean, I just adored the idea that someone sat there and said, I'm going to tell this story on a computer screen, which feels common to all of us, right? Everyone in this audience has sat in front of a computer screen. And the idea that you could tell the movie in that way made me want to see the movie.
Thank you. I mean, it was, and everything you guys are saying is so true. Like, you have to make the movies for as little as you possibly can, ethically speaking, right? Because every time I'm making an indie film,
Do you say you said ethically speaking?
ethically speaking, yeah.
Okay.
Like doing right by people's labor and all that, of
Oh, I
course.
see. Okay.
I think I always make like a budget. We make a dream budget, right? Where everything's gonna go great, and then we kind of just put that in the trash. And then we make a realistic budget, and we kind of put that in the trash. And then we make the OSHIT budget. And that's the one we go and try and get made. And it's because, like,
Wow.
you just have, like, I think Tommy said it so beautifully, like, you can't go for the best version. And this is a fiscal responsibility we have as producers, as filmmakers, to our cast, that their back end will be meaningful. And of course, that when we make that distribution deal, that we can really, you know, make something that could pay dividends for everybody. And I really feel like so often aspiring filmmakers or new filmmakers will be using comps from 2017. Like that film that went to that festival and got a great deal, and I genuinely think
Well, you create a really terrible comp because, you know, with searching, it's like it's an impossible situation. Like, it's going to make 100x what we put into the film, and it's going to be great. You know,
No, totally. And I mean, to Nina's point, like with searching, it was like, man, we don't have money. We do have this crazy concept, but can we make something that right out the gate makes people go like, wait, it's on a computer screen and it's good? Like that was always generally part of our process on that one. Like if it's like, and we really spent a lot of, if you guys have seen the movie, the first 5 minutes in particular really kind of get you to cry and feel all the emotions. And we just knew if we could just get people, like our goal was that at the Sundance premiere, that people would leave halfway through the screening because they were going to go try and buy the movie. Like that was honestly like, you just have to make something that feels so inevitably original and undeniable. And that's true to this day, but it is genuinely tough, but I so agree with Tommy. Like, if you just find a way to make it fiscally responsible, take advantage of every tax credit you can, because that's just, you know, it's free money if you do it right, and you find an original high concept that can reach a broader audience, that's definitely steps 1, 2, 3.
I also am so curious, like a movie like Searching, we talk about this a lot with our movie A Real Pain. Like if a movie like Searching was made or developed with Sony Pictures Classics from the beginning, would it have maintained its independent integrity, the coolness of the Michael Mann feel all in a laptop screen? Or would you have gotten a horrible note that like you have to expand the world, or in Act 2 it has to go big or it has to get bigger? And like, I think that's what gets me excited about independent film, because I feel like that movie was so meant to be made independently and then seen, you know, on big screens everywhere. And I think this, we talked about this, I think the same thing with like, oh, if A Real Pain was developed at Searchlight.
Exactly.
Like, if
it probably would not have come
It
out
would
the
have
same.
been as good. And instead, we got to like really make the movie that Jesse wanted to make, and it still got bought by Searchlight, and it still got out there in the world. But
Was it a surprise to you at Topic that how the movie did strike a chord?
I think it was. I think we really believed in it and we loved it. And the performance from Kieran and Jesse, we were like, you know, in tears every time we watched Dailies. I think the fact that it, you know, reached the audience that it did, which, you know, still wasn't ginormous, but the one that it did was a bit of a surprise.
And won Academy Awards.
And won an Academy Award. Yeah,
right.
that was the dream scenario for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it appeals to anyone who has a crazy person in their family.
Duh.
Which is everyone in the
Which
room.
is everyone.
Which is everyone.
That's right.
So I remember thinking that. I said, okay.
Yeah.
Because you could be the most normal person in the world, but we all know that there's someone in our family who we won't tell the world about. And that's who he was. And I love that.
But something we say, this is just a fun anecdote, is you're either a David or a Benji, which is Jesse's character or Kieran's character. And if you don't know a Benji, you are the Benji.
Classic.
So if you don't have the crazy person, you might be the crazy person.
That's really funny. That's really funny. Tommy, you had a movie at Toronto, Hamlet, which you're still selling. I guess it has international distribution. This is Riz Ahmed is Hamlet in a modern day retelling of Shakespeare. There's a lot of Hamlets out this season. You got to keep your Hamlets straight. So can you give that as an example of sort of how that came together, how you applied this sort of really brutally, you know, severe discipline, I guess I would say, on the process of making that movie?
So Mike Leslie wrote it, and he's a really talented writer, and it's something that Anil, the director, came on to after Mike and Riz had been developing it for a long time. And it was a big movie, and it's told modern day in London. It's at night, and it's not a small movie. And so thinking about how to do that responsibly, like we started with a number. Looking at London, it's really expensive. And so we had to make changes and try to figure out how to make sure that we can stay true to the essence of what it was, but do it responsibly. And the number kept growing, but we kept pushing back. And so there was a number where we knew that we really couldn't go over it, because even with, I don't know, Riz and Morphy Clark and Joe Alwyn and Timothy Spall and just what this is, like, we got to be super responsible about it. And so we co-financed it with the BBC and BFI, and we also had international
So
distribution.
what was it? Did you go with the oh shit budget, or you went with kind
The
of
realistic budget.
Certainly closer to like somewhere in between. It's like
Somewhere in
not the thing that's nice to have, not really the realistic one, but that's a testament to the team. And so it's like, once you're paying people reasonably, you're not taking advantage of them, but you have people who believe in something, and so they'll go above and beyond. They'll do what they need to, because it's a movie that when you see it, it's good. It's saying something. It's a perspective that we've never seen. It is Riz Ahmed as Hamlet. We've never seen a non-white Hamlet on screen. We've never seen a family like this. And the movie is much more like, I don't know, Uncut Gems, or even, it's so kinetic, it's so visceral, it's sort of like Black Swan. And so to take that and do it this way, but we had to do it responsibly. And so we had Focus On for international, which helped. And so we're mitigating the risk. We're bringing the budget down. We are increasing the level of the cast. We are mitigating it with having some distribution and trying to get what's at risk as low as possible. We're doing creative deals. We're doing all of those things. And even then, it is still a risk. It's still a risk, because you can do, like I said earlier, everything right. We played Telluride and we played TIFF. And you can get into the best festivals in the world. You can have people love your project. And it's such a buyer's market now, where before you'd have bidding wars and people would go back and forth. Deals take forever, because when you have so many movies and you can pick and choose, it takes so much time, and then the price keeps going lower and lower and lower and lower. So with all that, that's the process. And so trying to make sure we can be as responsible as we can. And then unfortunately, it still requires a little bit of luck. And you just try to minimize how much luck you need.
Right. Are the streamers bidding even? Are they at the table?
You mean for us?
Yeah.
Or in
I mean,
general?
in general, I would say. I mean, it seems like Hamlet would be a tough sell for a streamer right now, for a Netflix or a, I don't know.
It depends. Like, so fortunately, we do have interest, and so we're going through the process.
Right.
But how many movies did Netflix buy? And like,
I don't know
was a
that they
time
bought
where,
any.
Exactly.
At TIFF? I don't know that
Like,
they
there
bought
was a
any.
time where it would be, you know, Netflix or Amazon. Netflix bought this. Netflix bought this. Amazon bought this. Now they're not. Like, I was talking to one of them, not necessarily about this movie, and they were like, it's like, I know this person, and so they were saying, like, yeah, I've seen 20 movies. What are you gonna do? We're very likely not gonna buy a single one of them. And so their movies are things that they are developing, and they have zero capacity for 25. They barely have any capacity for 26. And so they're there because they need to know what's going on, but they're not in the business of acquiring finished movies in the same way. And so it goes back to, okay, this is where things are. So we have started to think about it differently. And so still want to do indies. We're still passionate about it, but we got to be responsible. And so wanting to partner with distributors where if it's, you know, A24 is the right partner, the only partner, okay, what does that conversation look like up front? Because the world where just doing everything at risk and fully speculative, unless the number is super low, it's hard to do.
Yeah. I've always been surprised that there's no really indie film streaming platform that has kind of clicked, that's made sense. I guess there's a million reasons why that's.
Mubi is trying.
Yeah. They're, okay.
I feel like there are a lot of people who are trying to figure out that formula. How do we, you know, consolidate the indie film world in a platform? So those platforms where you get to tell a history of your movie going, and you get to, I think it's all towards an end of how do we cultivate an audience that is going to want to go to a channel where they're going to see things, a lot of things that they like, as opposed to having to wade through a lot of things that they don't care about, or things that are thrown at them because of the algorithm, which, you know, to some degree is trying to force them to see things. And it's all cyclical. I think we will see some changes in the streaming, you know, purchasing directives in the next couple of years, but we have to go through this period of them thinking, we can just make anything, and people will watch it, and if they watch it, you know, for 2 minutes, that's fine, and we've got to get past that. But even they get surprised. Look at K-pop Demon Hunters.
Right.
Never expected that.
Right.
You know?
How useful are the film festivals then, given this sort of environment that we're in, and this frustration of, you know, you go to these festivals with high hopes in your film, and the last couple of years have been really tough. Are they still a tool? Are they still an important partner in the independent film world?
I think it's, well, I was thinking the same thing as Tommy was talking. I was like, I think that Sundance putting their programming online has affected the way people feel about the movies, because you can, instead of having to be in Park City and see the movies all immediately in the first weekend, you can, through your pass, go home and watch it on Tuesday. So I think like that's like one tiny thing, but I think also
That has negatively impacted.
negatively impacted. Yeah. I also have been thinking, and people have talked about this, like the Cannes now feels like a better market in some ways because of the international, for awardsy movies, for the international, the increase in international members in the Academy. Now I feel like Cannes has a sense of splashiness and prestige that it always has had, but I think for buyers, like Neon bought 6 movies at Cannes this year.
It feels more serious now. This felt like a real important year.
And I feel like the ebb is kind of on maybe Toronto's side. Like, I'm like, oh, it feels like 6 or 7 years ago, Toronto felt like the one that you would want to premiere your movie at if you had a great commercial but independent film. And
Right, but the premier place for independent film has always been Sundance.
Yeah.
And so I guess especially now that we lost Robert Redford and the same year that Sundance is having its last festival in Park City and is moving to Boulder, I mean, will it continue to play the same role in supporting independent filmmakers and giving them a path to a career, honestly?
I think it. What?
I was going to say, I'm optimistic about it. I think with the right film, I really, nothing will ever beat that experience of having a film premiere at Sundance, and that night no one's going to sleep because they're racing to buy it from each other. And that, I think it's the altitude that makes people probably overspend, which is great for filmmakers.
It's a novel theory, all right?
Totally. I mean, I've produced like maybe 12 independent films, like 5 of which premiered there, and we were able to sell all of them. And like one of them, we had a bidding war with only one buyer, but I'll tell that story one day. But like it's all because that energy is like truly like no matter what the state of the industry is, people are still passionate about film, and that's like the epicenter of it. Sundance, TIFF, Cannes. So I think Together sold this year, right, at Sundance for a good price.
Yeah,
like,
it did.
With the right film, and again, probably a little bit more genre leaning, more horror leaning, and all that stuff. Like that is the opportunity that I think people should still grab.
You're
because
just sticking with horror going forward, that's it?
I mean, I'm scared, man. Making these movies is scary for me. but like, I just think about like the idea of like sending a DVD or a link to a buyer to buy your film. It's never going to be as in your favor. Like to Jasmine's point, like we want the buyers to come to you. You want to create the fervor, and it's all the things like being responsible fiscally and trying to find that high concept idea that'll spark. But yeah, man, I'm still optimistic about Sundance in particular.
What were you, Tommy, you were going to say?
Yes, and I think there's a responsibility in the same way that we as producers need to adapt to the moment, that the festivals need to as well. And there's an important piece of showcasing new talent and new movies, but the ecosystem doesn't work if you don't have buyers there. And buyers aren't going to be there if there's not commercial projects. And so projects that people want to buy, because you have the buyers there, you have the sales agents there, you have talent there, and it's all predicated upon creativity, but also money. And so it's really important to have movies that come out of Sundance, a place that we love. It's where my career was started. It's a place that we love, but there have to be things like A Real Pain, but it's not enough. It's not enough where like we had a movie called Fancy Dance that was there, and it took us a year to sell that.
Fancy Dance,
And
yeah.
it's like there has to be, in order for it to succeed and to continue to grow and to be this bellwether that we all love and need, it's got to also grow and evolve.
Okay, ignorant question. Why would it take a year to sell that movie?
We don't have enough time, but I'll tell you the very fast story. So Lily Gladstone's the lead. Beautiful movie. And so beautiful movie, well-reviewed, 96% on Rotten Tomatoes. And actually, interestingly, we had a couple of movies there. We also had a movie that won the grand jury prize, The Doc, and also 97%.
Which one?
It's called Going to Mars, the Nikki Giovanni Project.
Oh, Going to Mars, yeah.
And so that one took us 6 months to sell, and Fancy Dance took us a year. Fancy Dance took us a year because it was a movie that nobody wanted to finance. And it was an amazing script, Native American director, co-writer, Native American lead. We came in, we did 90% of it. Nina Yang Bon Jovi, who's amazing, she was already on as well. And so we did it. Everybody loved the movie, and everybody talked about the importance of supporting indigenous cinema and doing all these things, except for when it came to buy it or put up any money. We loved the movie. Will you buy it? No. You want to know the biggest offer we got for 11 months? $40,000. $40,000 doesn't cover the paper deliverables on that movie. And so I said, no. We said no because we knew what the movie was. And part of the issue was that Lily, people hadn't seen her in the way that we knew she was amazing. Killers hadn't come out yet.
Oh, Killers hadn't come out.
Yes, and so Killers came out, and then all the credit in the world really goes to Lily and her staying in her power, and Erica, the director, the two of them. Very fast, they were at this event, and a big event. Leo was there, and Martin Scorsese was there, and all these other people. And Lily starts talking about this performance and how amazing this performance was, and all these things. And then she said to this room of people, and you probably thought I was talking about Killers of the Flower Moon. She wasn't. She was talking about our movie. And so they sat in their power in that moment, and we never would have done that deal with Apple had it not been for Lily and Erica calling people out, taking them to task. It's like, here's this amazing movie. Here's this thing you say you want to support. We're here. What's going on? And so that's why we didn't close that deal until January the following year, but it was because of Lily and us. But that's what independent film is. We were all in it together. Like we were locked arms and trying to figure it out, and we were in it for the fight.
That's a great story. Well, I think we'll end it on that hopeful, inspiring note. Go Lily Gladstone, go Tommy. Thank you guys so much for being here.